even tease that we had this guest, but you guys all know who we have in the house waiting for a positive discussion. Not talking about the right wing anymore, not analyzing their bullshit, because we all know it's the same goddamn thing every single day. Let's talk about our side. Let's talk about what we're building, especially here in New York. She's a city council member for New York's 22nd district. Prior to that, she represented over 1,000 clients as a public defender. She identifies as an abolitionist, a queer Latina, and a Queens kid. Please welcome Tiffany Cabán.
Thank
Bienvenidos.
you. I'm very nervous.
Councilmember,
How are you?
how are you?
I'm all right. I brought my hype man.
Is that Gustavo?
That's Gustavo.
Hell yeah. State senator over there, hell yeah. Tiffany, you've been in an elected office for only a couple months. How is it? What are the perks like? What are the snacks like? Tell us. Nap pods, are there any?
No nap pods.
Damn it.
Yeah. What is it like? It's kind of wild. There are people who want to say hi and be nice to you that you never thought would. You know, like when I was out organizing, or even when I was running for office, like Rebney and real estate people would be like, oh, and like not going anywhere near her, and now they'll come up and be like, oh, Councilmember Cabán, how are you? Can we please chat? Love you. You're great. Right now, it's a little bit overwhelming. It's like my first experience with a budget, and the budget is just in its first iteration horrific, and we've got a lot to fight for. Perks. Before this, I was obviously a public defender, and my office, yeah, shout out to the public defenders, the good guys. And my office, right, was like, literally, this is how close I sat to my office mate. We could sit in each other's lap, we could touch each other, tiny. I have 2 offices now, which is crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, and one of them, I get the biggest perk. I get to bring my dog to my office now. She's got like a little corner in my office. It's great.
Yeah, what kind of dog you have?
She is, her name is Natalie. She's a Beagle Pit Bull mix. She's 11 years old.
That's fucking adorable.
Yeah, she's pretty cute.
Put like a tie on her and glasses. And
She's not that classy.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All you're doing is Instagramming your dog in office, and people are like, I don't know if she's working. Like,
You're just like, fuck, I gotta do this budget thing. But look how cute the dog look.
well, we want to talk about the budget, but look, let's talk about you've had multiple runs at office, your second run. You first ran for Queens DA and came within ridiculous striking distance. Stolen striking distance, thank you. With some bullshit ballot errors, as we all know. But I think when I was coming up in progressive politics and leftist politics, we did not look to the electoral arena, especially I lived here in New York, and I did not know city council members. I mean, I knew who was our asshole. I mean, I knew Bloomberg. I called him out. I called him out on television. That was fun. But that was it. You know, I was just like, fuck Bloomberg, and I don't care. That has changed. We have now a left that sees the electoral arena, especially a young left, as a place to fight for. And how did that help you in your campaign? And like, what do you think about that politically?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's incredibly important, but I was like a lot of other folks where before I ran for district attorney, like I did not fuck with electoral. It was my introduction to electoral politics, right? I had never gone anywhere near it, but I guess maybe it makes more sense to talk about my personal journey a little bit, but like as I studied movements, right, and what I now know to be movement ecology, I understood that we absolutely had to be participating in this strategy, right? Because movements are made up of pieces. First of all, the life of movements are long, right? Like any liberation struggle, any civil rights movement, they're a decade long, they're decades long, but they also have different pieces that have to be present, right? And they all have to be present at the right time, right? They call them bubble bursting moments. But it's like, you have to have mass protest, you have to have people who are engaged in personal transformation, right? And you have to have people who are living outside of norms or what we call alternatives, modeling what the possibilities are for us to then scale. But you cannot leave out the changing dominant institutions piece. And that's electoral politics. That is putting our people in those positions of power to kind of push out the bounds what they can do, but then also recognizing that they're all, while yes, some, like in a certain amount of tension, they're all in relationship to one another, and the value of being in relationship to one another. And plus then we just started winning shit, right? Like that is also the big thing. Like here in not here because we're in Brooklyn, but but in Queens, in Queens, like we did some really dope things. You go back to 2018 and you're like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right?
Heard of her, yeah.
We are slaying giants. We are unseating some of the most powerful Democrats in the country. And then right after that, you're like, well, David and Goliath. We ran out Amazon, and they didn't think that we could do it, right? We came pretty close with the DA, but we had all of these really powerful wins, and that it's energizing. We have been able to expand the amount of people who are like, oh, I could fuck with this too, and we'll get involved. And now we have a bunch of organizers, leftist organizers, in the city council, and so that's really incredible.
So the anarcho crust punks can coexist with the city council member. The dumpster diving can happen alongside the budget meetings.
That's right.
After the budget meeting, you go and dumpster dive. Right? Is that what you're trying to say? Okay. It's the ecosystem. I get it.
You get it.
I'm curious as to, and maybe it's you don't have necessarily a perspective on this, but what difference has it made to not have Andrew Cuomo as the governor relative to not just the relationship with the state and the city, but just, I mean, I years ago was in a room with a lot of organizers and people who worked in, I guess, NGOs who were like, we would rather anybody than Andrew Cuomo as the governor. Anybody, like any Republican, like he's the worst that it can get. Do you have a sense of if there's been a change in terms of like that vacuum of thuggery or power? I don't want to put words in your mouth, but thuggery and power.
I feel like Gustavo has all the words.
Gustavo. Yeah, Gustavo Rivera over there reminding us that, Cuomo's not your boyfriend. I don't know if anyone was a Cuomo-sexual. Not my crew. No, not these people. Hell no. But yeah.
But is there a difference? I mean, does the city, is there a sense that there's a vacuum and there's more possibility to get progressive policies both on a city level and maybe across the state?
I mean, there's a difference for sure, right? There's a difference in culture. There's a difference in the way that power is used and wielded. From what I understand, there are a bunch of state legislators that can actually talk to our governor, maybe get some things done. But I just want to be clear that that is not the place to stop. Yes, it is the bare minimum not to have an abusive, power-hungry, governor at the helm. But we're not going to get what we need to get done with a corporate dem. We're not going to get what we need to get done with somebody that's like, oh yeah, let's opt into prison, giving out prison labor to corporations or all of these different things. So we still got a ton of work to do on that front.
On that front specifically, given that you're not DA in Queens, but you're a city council member, and how would you take your vision for changing this carceral-based justice system in New York that is so flawed? You've got, Rikers Jail in your district. How do you bring that to the city council now, given that maybe, as an abolitionist, where you want to be is so far from where we are right now, and especially in this moment that I want to talk more about, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's the same work in my mind, right? It is all, you locate yourself within movement and you figure out what tools in your toolbox that you're using in any given moment. And so in my mind, city council is the other side of that coin, right? When we think about why I ran for DA as an abolitionist, which seems kind of wild, right? It could seem mind-blowing, but for me, harm reduction was an incredibly important strategy. It's a powerful position. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, what's the goal? Abolition? Well, how do we get there? We have to end mass incarceration. How do we get there? We have to end mass criminalization. How do we get there, right? Like, we have to paradigm shift. We have to say that we're treating violence as a public health issue, that, like, all these different things. And then the connection that you can make to city council is that this pipeline that we feed into, that austerity goes hand in hand with policing and incarceration.
Yes.
So in communities, right, particularly Black, brown, working class, low income communities, when you're starved of resources and then are met with police responding to every problem, like, this is what you get. And so at the city council, what are the 3 big things you do? Like, yes, it's land use decisions, right? And we talk about gentrification being violence. We talk about, the lack of affordable housing. There's legislation, obviously, but, it's one of the largest budgets in the entire country. We're talking about over $98 billion that the city council and the mayor are talking, negotiating as to, like, where that money goes and where it doesn't go. And, we put $10+ billion into policing. We don't put money into, we're looking at a preliminary budget in this moment that cuts funding to our schools, to sanitation, to our public hospital systems, to youth like, all of these different things.
Sanitation?
Sanitation.
In New York?
I've been in New York for 4 days now, and trash is everywhere. How can they cut sanitation?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
It's just on the sidewalk.
God.
You haven't seen, like, all of the most popular thing that's happening right now are council members hosting these, like, rat academies.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, for people in neighborhoods to figure out how to remediate some of the rat problems. It's like, we got to pick up the trash.
Yeah.
Oh my
We gotta
God.
pick up the trash.
But I'm just
One of
visiting.
the
I don't
joke
want to pick up the
questions. One of the joke questions I was going to ask you was, like, is there a whole separate New York City Council but made up of nothing but rats? and then you guys, like, talk, but, like, nobody knows about it. But you guys have a meeting, and there's rat councils. They exist.
They send out the humans to do the podcast. But they're the ones who are pulling the levers.
They're under our chairs moving us.
The bill is ratified.
What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do it.